Right, you set up. Yes, there we go. So in my last video, go and watch it if you haven't already. It's basically a part 1 to this one, which is a part 2. I said, don't worry about making money. Which, as a freelance video editor, you want to make this your job, you want to make money from it. Why would you not worry about making money? That's your main aim. But don't worry, I haven't gone completely crazy. Once you start to get regular work, that's when you should start worrying about making money. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video today. Money in freelance video editing. What should you charge? Big question, this one, and I'm going to break it down as well as I can for you because it does depend on a lot of things. By the end of this, you should know what you should be charging roughly for each job so you can go into a job quoting a much better price for yourself. But I would say, as an absolute beginner, you're just starting out, your first freelance job, you should be charging a bare minimum of £10 an hour. You should never go below £10 an hour because that's just ridiculous. You've got some skills and you put yourself out there, you've got some equipment to video edit on, like £10 an hour as an absolute minimum for a client who has like no money. You should never charge lower than £10 an hour. Your work should always be worth more than that. I would say as you get better and you come away from that absolute beginner stage, you should definitely be charging more than that, you know, £12 an hour, £15 an hour, £20 an hour. As you do more jobs, it will become more natural and you'll find out where your level is and what people want to pay for your services. But as a guide between those kind of parameters when you're starting out is a good amount to charge. But just so you have an idea of how to price your jobs, I'm going to tell you a few things like that it depends on. Every job is not the same, so you have to take all these things into consideration when making a price. So I'm going to go through them right now. How skilled you are as a video editor, this is an obvious one, but your skill level, as you increase, your price will increase because you can offer a better job and you can offer more value to a client. When you're pricing it, it's really key to tell them like your value that you add to a video, how you can keep someone watching an ad for longer, or how you can keep someone watching a video for longer so that they know that they're getting a great service and end product from you because you really know what you're doing and you're worth that hourly rate. Your client budget will also affect how much you get for a job. Small YouTuber with like just over 1,000 subscribers is not going to be able to afford as much as someone with 1 million subscribers. Gauge the room kind of thing. Are they a bit tight for cash? Are they trying to do this on a shoestring budget? And to fix this, if you do want higher paying clients, you can look in places where there are people with more money, people that have more of a company, people that have more of a backing. So look in places like LinkedIn where people have businesses. Big YouTubers on Instagram, Twitter, they often look for editors and they can afford to pay people well. Indeed is also really good. You've got to look for people with money because we want their money, so we've got to look for people with money. It will also depend on how much you want to do the job. It's either going to be like really fun for me or it's going to benefit me in the long term because it's going to look great on my portfolio. I might charge a lower price if like the client can't afford it. The final thing it normally depends on is how busy I am. If I'm really busy, I'm not going to try and fit in a low paying small job that's just going to cause me stress. The pay isn't worth the stress and the hassle it's going to cause me. Whereas if, you know, the pay was amazing, I might try and sneak it in because it's worth the hassle and the stress. Next up is how do you charge? The main 3 ways that people charge for projects are hourly, a day rate, or a project rate. I personally would always go for an hourly rate. I think it's the best way to charge and you're always going to get the amount of money for the amount of work you've done. Whereas if you do a day rate and you end up working a really long day that is above 8 hours, you're going to lose out on money because say you work 10 hours in a day or 12 hours in a day, those extra 4 hours you don't get paid for because you only charge for an 8-hour day rate. Project is exactly the same, but even worse, especially on longer projects, it can often run on longer and be more than you expected. So then you end up working 2 days for free because you quoted for 5 days and the project actually took you 7 days. So if you can, hourly rate, always charge an hourly rate. It's by far the best way. Only ever charge project by project if you have to. But then you can run into the problem with charging an hourly rate that the client is like, oh, how much is this going to cost me? And a client cannot want to jump into that because they're like, oh, is it going to cost me £100? Is it cost me £1,000? And they don't really know. This is where giving them an estimated quote is a great idea. I always do this. I give them an estimated quote, and then you also give them your hourly wage and how much they're going to be paying you. But make sure it's clear that that's an estimated quote. And then at the end of the project, you send them an invoice for all the hours you worked. And I would also send them reasons for why, like it's either below the estimated quote or it's above, and you say why, like did you have to work extra on feedback? Did an edit take you a bit longer? Was there extra things in the brief? Put them on the invoice saying like why it's extra and why it's above the estimated quote, and then the client will hopefully understand. But as you become a better and better video editor, you should start charging gradually more and more. At the start, you will feel a bit like, oh, should I be charging that amount of money? But you should, and you will feel more comfortable with charging that amount of money, and it will just become more natural, and you'll know when to turn down clients because you'll be like, that's not enough money, mate. And your time is worth more than that. Invoices and contracts. Now I know this is a bit boring, but we're gonna get back onto some more exciting ways to make money video editing in a minute. But unfortunately, this is essential. If you want to make money, you have to do invoices and you have to do contracts. Invoices are fairly simple. You send them out at the end of a job, or if it's a very long job, I normally send them out weekly. And then it just means you get paid regularly. You don't have this big block of chunk of money that's waiting like a month to be paid to you and you haven't got any money and you've got cash flow problems. You don't want to get into that. Chasing for invoices is also very important. You want to make sure that if it gets past, your 30-day payment terms, that you're chasing nearly like every day, like where is it? Because clients, they don't like to pay. And it's very important that you make sure they are paying. Send off invoices. I just have a fairly standard template of the project, the amount of hours I've worked, the amount they owe, and then the bank details at the bottom so they can pay me. Very important. Contracts, something that definitely aren't used enough in freelance video editing. I need to use them more, unfortunately, but they are a great way to set expectations between you and a client so that you're always on the same page and you have this agreement to go back to. If there's any like, can you do this for me? You can be like, well, sorry, that's actually extra money because in the contract, I only said 2 rounds of amends and you want 4 rounds of amends. You'll do like 12 projects and you won't need a contract for like 11 projects. And then, but then on the 12th project you do, and you do a contract for that, it'll be really helpful and it'll save you a butt and it'll save you a lot of trouble. You can use a fairly standard contract template. Again, it's not a hard thing to write up. You just need to basically include all the things that you tell a client on how it's going to be edited, how long it's going to take you, how much you're charging, how many rounds of amends there are. Just include basically all the things you agree with the client, put that all in a contract, get them to sign it. Okay, so it's time for some questions from some people who have left comments on my YouTube video and my Instagram. Thank you very much for these, I really appreciate them. This one is from 12/7. How do you charge when the client sends you hours of footage and wants it condensed down into a 15-minute video? So I would charge an hourly rate and I would give them a quote beforehand of how much it's going to be. But then, obviously charge them an hourly rate of how long it's taken you. When making a quote for how much it's going to cost, I would look at the amount of raw footage they're going to send you or rushes. I would look at the pacing of the video. Is it high intensity? Is it a lot of cuts? Is it very fast paced? Or is it a slower video where it more relies on the content and the chatting and the talking, where there's going to be less cuts, less effects, because that's not going to take you as long. How long is the end video going to be? Is it going to be like, 10 to 15 minutes? Is it going to be 20 minutes? Is it going to be like 30 minutes? Or is it just going to be, 2 minutes, bish, bash, bosh, we're done? And then finally, the rounds of amends. I normally go for 2 as standard. And unfortunately, that's when my camera decided it would stop recording. But don't worry, I'm here with a quick voiceover and I'll answer all your questions. So just for an example with that video, if it was 1.5 hours to 2 hours of footage, an average editing pace, and the end video was 10 to 15 minutes with 2 rounds of amends, I would be charging around £250 for that. So that would be £20 an hour for about, 12.5 hours of video editing. And that's watching through all the footage, making selects of the best footage, getting a first cut together, and then any feedback and rounds of amends they have. It would depend on all those things I listed earlier in the video, but as a general job, that's what I would charge for this, and I think that's what you should also consider as well. And then the next question is, how do I charge for special effects if they're in templates, or how do I charge for effects if I'm making them? Okay, so templates, if I have an effect in the templates, I wouldn't charge any extra for that. I would just charge for how long it took me to put the footage into the template and pull off the effect with that template, if that makes sense. And that benefits me because I am then a faster video editor. People are impressed with the effects that I can do so quickly, so they're more likely to use me again. And then if I don't have a template for the effects and I have to do it myself in the time, I would just make the client aware of how long it's going to take, and if they want that specific effect in there, it's going to cost more. I would also, when you're editing, I would try and stay away from big effects that are going to take you a long time if they're not 100% necessary, because they're just going to waste your time and they're not necessary in the video, and the client might not even realize how good they are, if you get what I mean. Always make sure if it's 100% necessary, because you're going to spend a lot of time on it, and if you are going to spend a lot of time on it, make the client aware and then charge them per hour for the work done on that effect. Is it better to charge higher and have fewer clients, or lower and have lots of clients? I personally would always go for charging more money and having like bigger clients and maybe less clients. I feel like you can get more money as a freelancer that way, and it's less stressful because you're always on one client. But then I also do like to have little projects going on as well, because it varies up my workflow and gives some potential for new clients to come in and become bigger clients, if you get what I mean. And it can be quite dangerous to get all your work done for one client, because, you know, if they then stop using you, you don't have any income. Whereas if you have a few different clients, you've always got something to fall back on. What's your favourite ride at Alton Towers? Not really related to video editing, but you know, I have never been to Alton Towers. Unfortunately, not too much of a fan of rides. I'm a bit of a wimp. The Super Blaster 7000, that's my favourite ride. I don't think that's a ride at Alton Towers. Where do I start going out by myself and doing freelance video editing? I would say a great place to start if you haven't done any freelance video editing and you're a bit nervous about it is Reddit. It's super casual. The clients are not going to pay as much money, but it's easy to find jobs on there, and you can just search, I need a video editor, and you can go through all the people who need a video editor, and you can apply for those jobs. LinkedIn is also good, and you get some more high-paying clients on there. That's the two places I would advise if you're looking to just start out. I've also got some other videos linked, so you can have a look at them, and that gives a bit more information about, you know, starting out and finding your first client. Where can I find high-paying clients, and what makes a client pay more? This is a really good question. I like this one. Basically, I would say higher paying clients, you're more likely to find them on LinkedIn and Indeed. They have a lot of big companies with backing and, you know, money. And then also, if you know the right places to look, like follow big YouTubers and that kind of thing, like Twitter and Instagram can be a great place to find high-paying YouTube editing jobs. And then how do I make clients pay more? I would say there's like 3 parts to this. So making sure that you have a really good portfolio and their first impression of you shows that you're a really good, well-rounded video editor. Like, you can do lots of things. You're a bit of a Swiss Army knife. And then also give them some appreciation for like what you do. Have a little context of what you do as a video editor, how much work goes into it, because some clients just think, you know, you click 3 buttons and the video's edited, whereas like there's a lot that goes into it. You know, there's going through all the footage, there's selecting the best bits, there's making the story, there's then adding all the edits and cutting it together so it has good pacing, the color grade, the sound effects, the music. Make sure that clients are aware that you do a lot of work and, you know, you work hard for this. And then the final bit, which I would actually say is the most important, because a lot of people, you know, appreciate that people are good video editors and, you know, and that it's a very good skill to have and the videos look amazing, but you need to tell the client why that video is going to give more value to their business, more value to them, or if they already have videos and it's like a YouTube channel, why are your videos going to give more value to them than their current videos or their current video editor? You could add in infographics that are going to add more context, or you could make a snappier intro for them, or a better end card. Whatever it is that where you're gonna add value, tell them that and make sure they're aware of that, so that they know from employing you they're going to get a big benefit. There is a need for you. It's not just a want, it's not just like, oh, that would be cool. There's a need to have you as a video. How to handle lowball offers. Do you try to convince them to pay more, or do you walk away and focus on better? I would say, a combination of the both. You need to kind of be able to, read the room. Like, are they a small YouTuber who's not going to have much money and probably can't afford to pay you enough for your video editing skills? But if they're a big client and they have a lot of videos going out, or they've got a lot backing, they're a business, it might be worth having a bit of bargaining, a bit of back and forth about the price and that kind of thing. Like I said before, saying about your value, the value that you'll give to them, and in the value that your videos bring. But if they're really picky, I would walk away as well, because likelihood is, if they're picky at the start about paying you a lot of money, they're probably going to be a bit of a pain to work for, and you're going to have to grind to get more money in the future, and they're just not really going to appreciate you as a video editor. I will see you next week for another video. If you did like this one and you did find anything useful, remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time for another video. Bye.